have never been shy about expressions of Palestinianism, about what Palestinianism means, whether it's Palestinian leaders, from the founders of the Palestinian movement, organizations, activists, and so on. Palestinian Arabs, let's say, are very, very clear on what the goal is and what they would like to do, which is to get rid of the one Jewish state, replace it with the 23rd, fourth, however much it is, Arab dictatorship, and get rid of all the Jews, or in some cases, allow them to live as basically slaves. That is Palestinianism in essence. The Western arm of the propaganda machine can't really sell Palestinianism as it is, so it tries to sell it as what it isn't, which is Palestinians, rather than being a movement of basically a genocidal movement designed to exterminate the Jews, pretending that they are victims. So the Guardian, which we talk about a lot here, they do that. They do that, of course, not just in their editorial pages, but they do that in their news reporting. One recent article surrounding the recent vote in the Israeli cabinet, the recent issues with humanitarian aid. This follows on that topic, and the title of this article is Gaza will be entirely destroyed, Israeli minister says. So that is that article and what it means generally that the media chooses to report this way, and what this way is going to be the topic of today's episode of the Daily Objective. I'm Razi Ginsburg. I'm joined by James Valiant. James, your thoughts on this article before we go into it, on generally the way the conflict is being portrayed by those activist media outlets.
Yeah, I mean, it's an if only feeling that I have about it. I mean, yeah, the finance minister says something very clear, which is quite kind of remarkable. I'm not sure that the entire Israeli government is on board with it. So as misleading as a report just walking into it. But the finance minister said something, I think, which is much closer to sanity than we normally get from politicians. And so how is it reported? Gaza will be completely destroyed. No, the Gazans must be removed from that area, at least a substantial portion of them. That's realistic. The place must be decimated. Hamas must be wiped out. Those are the facts. And that does to present that as some kind of Israeli, and get this, when you get into the article, I hope we can get into the article, because the outrageous doublespeak is they, for example, holding up humanitarian aid, or Israelis insisting on the fact that they be the ones that distribute humanitarian aid. How many layers of ethical corruption are we talking about here? Israel doesn't owe the Palestinians anything. They don't owe them a slice of bread. They do not owe them. The Palestinians have a responsibility to feed themselves. Had they not been lobbing rockets, initiating various kinds of attacks, culminating 20 years ago, mind you, for the last 20 years, we've been having constant attacks. If they had lifted a finger to feed themselves or take care of themselves, they could have they could be feeding themselves. No one owes them any food, much less the people they attacked. No, in fact, it's bizarre. And they say it's blackmail. Blackmail, because Israel insists on this food not going to Hamas. Well, Israel, don't feed them. It's still not blackmail. People who are holding hostages have the gall to say that holding humanitarian aid up is blackmail. Can you imagine the temerity, the moral perversion that we've reached now, that says the world owes Hamas to be fed while Hamas has done nothing but attack Israel and hasn't lifted a finger to help them. So the Guardian is taking an destroy Israel stance, whether they know it or not. It is despicable, but
Yeah,
typical from lefty media in the West.
and they absolutely know it. I mean, this has been the Guardian line for a long, long time. You know, in the second Intifada, they posted op-eds by Hamas leaders, so that the Guardian is consistent. But yeah, let's dive into its
Yeah.
consistency. So Bezalel Smotrich says Palestinians will, quote, leave in great numbers to third countries, raising fears of ethnic cleansing. Um, Okay, you know what? I'm going to read a bit of the article and then I'll say what I have to say about Smotrich. But
Hamas stands for the ethnic cleansing of Israel. Israel has done over the last 20 years, the population of Gaza has grown despite all these, these horrible Israeli blockades. Although Israelis are suffering from all these rocket attacks for the last 20 years, they do blockades, and somehow the Palestinian population grows, grows, grows. Wow. No. And ethnic cleansing at this point? No. The aggressors have to be removed from the area. That's not ethnic cleansing at all. Look at the Arab Muslims that live in peace in Israel. Israel would be happy to live with Arab Muslims around them if they weren't constantly attacking them and genocidally at Jewish people's throats. So the ethnic cleansing is coming, the attempted ethnic cleansing is coming from Israel's enemies. So again, this moral upside down, this complete moral inversion of anything that's realistic, and you need it just in that line. It's
yeah.
pretty despicable.
Thanks, Bronx Guy, Gun Hill Road, for the super chat. All right, let's get into the article. The article begins. An Israeli government minister has vowed that, quote, Gaza will be entirely destroyed, unquote, as a result of an Israeli military victory, and that its Palestinian population will, quote, leave in great numbers to third countries, unquote, raising fears of ethnic cleansing in the occupied territory. The declaration on Tuesday by the finance minister Bezalel Smotrich came a day after Israel's security cabinet approved a plan for Operation Gideon's chariots, which an Israeli official said would entail, quote, the conquest of the Gaza Strip and the holding of the territories. The Israeli threat to siege control of the territory permanently has stirred global outrage.
Well, is it an
So,
occupation, or are they
let me
distressed that might be
Yeah.
occupied?
Yeah, so let me just read the next quote and then we'll get to it. So we strongly
Yes.
oppose the expansion of Israel's operations. The UK's Middle East Minister Hamish Falconer said, quote, any attempt to annex land in Gaza would be unacceptable. Yeah, so what the vote, this is of course intentionally false reporting. What the vote in Israel's security cabinet approved when it came to Operation Gideon's Chariots is not that that's going to happen. It's that we are giving Hamas another opportunity to agree to Israel's almost complete, but not fully complete capitulation in the negotiations for a hostage deal. If that doesn't happen, we will restart military operations. And this time, we won't do the things that we've been doing for a year and a half, which is operate somewhere, clear the area of Hamas operatives, leave, and then Hamas takes the area over again. This time we will stay. That's what this means. So yeah, this is a false reporting about what this would be. But again, even with the Guardian, as always, they lie, but what they say would be a better truth than
Yes.
than a better reality than what we are seeing Israel actually do.
Yeah, Hamish, if only. Hamish, if only. And by the way, Israel has every right to take over territory if that territory is being used constantly to attack them, as Gaza has been used constantly for one purpose by those people, to attack Israel. So everyone, and the only daylight that exists between any Palestinians in Gaza now and Hamas has been the result of military pressure that Israel has put on them for the last year and a half. So the Palestinians and Hamas are one. They must be treated as one. Even with demonstrators now starting to dislike Hamas's rule, it's not that they were in principle in favor of Israel. No, no, no. They're now just against Hamas because they may have tactically screwed up a little on October 7th. No, 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 no. It doesn't work like that, Hamish. When you're constantly under attack from a certain territory, the victim nation who's been a victim of aggression has the right to take over that territory and clear out the bad guys. Sorry, Hamish.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting that they take, this is a quote that they choose to go out and get for this, some dude with a portfolio in the British British government, which has, I don't know, 100 and whatever ministers. Yeah, it's a relevant portfolio, but this is this is basically this guy just did his entire job for the year. But anyway, let's the article. The Guardian journalists work harder than anybody in government, so let's continue with the article. After the intensified offensive was announced, Hamas said it was no longer interested in truce talks with Israel and urged the international community to halt Israel's, quote, hunger war against Gaza, a reference to the total blockade on aid deliveries to Gaza, which has been in place for more than 2 months. Quote, there is no sense in engaging in talks or considering new ceasefire proposals as long as the hunger war and extermination war continue in the Gaza Strip, Bassem Naim, a senior Hamas official, told AFP. So, I mean, look, first of all, you're giving the Hamas line, you're giving them a platform to actually say their words, but they know what the Guardian is, and they know what other clients of AFP are. They know that these are propaganda arms of the Palestinians. So they are using words like extermination war. Hamas officials have made it clear that October 7th was an extermination war and that they will repeat it again and again until there are no more Jews left to kill. So even if you're going to put a quote by him that includes that, how do you not mention that Hamas has declared an extermination war against Israel? And now that they're losing, they're accusing Israel of what they said they want to do in a newspaper for useful idiots in the West.
And the hostage takers have the gall to suggest that not feeding them is some kind of blackmail after this relentless attack. No, 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 no. Years of attack. And somehow Israel engaged in some kind of immoral blackmail because they won't feed the people who took hostages and are still holding 24 perhaps living hostages. I mean, come on. That is moral insanity. No, Israel has a moral responsibility to starve the area, to starve the area. No one should lift a finger to feed these people. So until and unless we get unconditional surrender and all the hostages back, and Hamas says we quit, we're out of business here, there shouldn't even be discussions about this sort of thing. And consider how long this has been going on. At this point, really, the finance minister is right. There's nothing to be done here except to remove large numbers from Gaza, level the place. That's really all we can do. Nothing gets through to Hamas. They need to unconditionally surrender. They need to disband. They need to. They don't even probably know where the hostages are. I don't even know if the hostages are still alive. I suspect they're being starved and beaten like others I've seen, but who were released. The point is that to the nerve, no one owes them any food under any circumstances. Like everyone else on this planet, they have a responsibility to feed themselves. They are perfectly capable of feeding themselves. They have opted out against feeding themselves, and they rely upon the support of other nations to feed them for what purpose? So that they can exist solely to attack Israel. And their whole strategy is this sympathy play on hearts, people, because we're starving and our children, but they use their own children as human shields. And so you're playing right into this evil propaganda, Guardian. The Guardian is an agent of this evil propaganda that comes from Hamas. There's no other way of looking at it. It just speaks to deep anti-Semitism on the part of the Guardian. That's all I can say. You must really, really have to be so twisted in your head that you hate Jews almost as much as Hamas does to present it like the Guardian presents it. It's despicable.
Yeah. Brian says in the chat what we've been saying on this channel, but says it very well. Not one Gazan helped get hostages released, not police, civilians, nobody. They are all guilty. Yes, if you're in Gaza and you have information that would lead to the rescue of a hostage, you are sorted for life. Like if you do that, your family, whoever, you're sorted. You get money, you get out of Gaza. Like, yeah. And I don't remember the exact number, but it's in the millions, right? So, but yeah, no, there's no amount of money that's more important to Palestinians than getting rid of the Jews, so they will continue with their war. I should note Smotrich, some of his statements the anti-Israel crowd loves to jump on it. I have no issue with that one way or the other if he makes these statements. My issue with Smotrich is the fact that he is a part of the government that is providing aid, which is, you can call it humanitarian aid, but it is military aid. And yeah, it has paused it now, but that's a show. We all know that's a show. Providing military aid for Israel's enemy at a time of war. He's a part of the government that sends Israeli soldiers to die to protect Palestinians, because too many of them would die if you bomb them from the air. So he is a part of the problem on so many levels. And yeah, with attacks from him from the anti-Israel side, they see it as material, his statements of material to use, but the fact is he is acting against those statements. So bear that in mind when you judge Smotrich for what he does. You should judge him negatively for not doing those things that the Guardian says Israel is about to do. I'll have a bit more to say about that when we continue the article, but James, any thoughts on that?
No, let's keep reading this thing.
All right. So when we continue, of course, genocide has many different components. Starvation isn't the only one. So let's see what else. But first, of course, The Guardian is fair and balanced. So the article continues. Effie Defrin, Israel's chief military spokesperson, said the planned offensive would include, quote, moving most of the population of the Gaza Strip to protect them. Benjamin Netanyahu, the Israeli prime minister, said the, quote, population will be moved for its own protection in a video posted on social media, but gave no further details. Okay, the next paragraph is Smotrich speaking to a conference on Jewish settlement in the occupied West Bank, went further, making clear that many Palestinians would be driven out of the territory altogether as part of a scorched earth offensive. Okay, so the IDF spokesperson and the prime minister, it's clear to the Guardian, because of how they word the next paragraph on Smotrich, it's clear that when Israel says the population will be moved, when Netanyahu says for its own protection, and the Guardian adds, but gave no further details, well, he did give further details. In the past year and a half, he's been given those details by doing this exact same thing, moving populations from one place to another in order to protect them from Israel's offensive in those areas against Hamas. Now, that is absolutely idiotic and has cost Israeli lives and is costing Israel victory in this war. But the fact that this is done to protect Palestinians is absolutely undeniable, and it's undeniable to the scumbags who write for The Guardian and tell you the opposite of what they know to be true.
Yeah, Israelis have foolishly been moving the population to protect it. They've been foolishly warning buildings to clear out before they bomb them. Foolishly. If they had way back in 2023, had they really leveled Gaza, had they really shown the proper concern for their own well-being that they have every right to, reducing this destruction, this scorched earth policy. Well, this, ladies and gentlemen, had Israel even started on such a, let me put it this way, scorched earth policy way back in 2023, we would have had, let me suspect, their surrender by now. As I say, the only daylight now between any Gazans and Hamas has been the result of the military pressure that has been put on them. If we had actually followed a scorched earth policy way back in October, November of 2023, we would have had we might well have had their unconditional surrender right now, and hostages more hostages might have survived and been released. Yeah, some might have been killed. That's true. But the long-term situation where no more hostages can ever be taken again would have been taken care of. And they're forcing Israel, the rest of the world is forcing Israel, in effect, to take the blackmail of the hostage takers. That's the Guardian. Listen to yourselves. You say it's blackmail to hold up humanitarian aid. It's blackmail to move populations out for their own safety. And these are the people who engaged in the atrocities of October 7th. These are the people who have been unrelenting in their attacks on Israel for almost 20 years now. I mean, unbelievable. No, if you don't submit to our blackmail, you're the blackmail artist. That is the moral logic, illogic I have to put logic in scare quotes, because all it is you have to continue to put up with Hamas attacks. That's it. And consider Israel is planning on even providing humanitarian aid, only it can't go to Hamas, you see. We're the ones, oh, well, that's unacceptable to the international community. Absolutely unacceptable that Israel distribute this humanitarian aid, which Israel shouldn't be delivering at all. These people should be starving. And if the population had been starving more than a year ago, again, maybe by this point we would have had their unconditional surrender and the population really would have turned on Hamas.
We would have definitely had either unconditional surrender or death.
Or death.
Either way, the result is a positive, because it means the
Yes.
people wanting to get rid of the Jews are no longer around to do so. Okay, let's continue. By the way, that last paragraph, I'll repeat the last paragraph because this is a thing that journalists do, and I'm sure everybody knows this. But when they quote you or give you part of a quote and then continue the sentence with what the journalist thinks the person meant or said. I know this because when we had years ago, I was interviewed for, about the activities we did here in London. And I remember saying something about Rand's philosophy. A bunch of quotes were wrong, but one of them was, I said something about Rand's philosophy and they added Rand's conservative philosophy, which of course I never would have called it, but journalists do this. So for context, so I'll repeat that last paragraph, which does not contain a quote. Smotrich, speaking to a conference on Jewish settlement in the occupied West Bank, went further, making clear that Palestinians would be driven out of the territory altogether as part of a scorched earth offensive. And the next paragraph is a quote. Gaza will be entirely destroyed. Civilians will be sent to the south to a humanitarian zone without Hamas or terrorism. And from there, they will start to leave in great numbers to third countries, the minister said. Israel's neighbors, Egypt and Jordan, have said they will refuse to allow an exodus of refugees on their territory, arguing that would make them party to the ethnic cleansing of Gaza. Okay, there's a bunch of legal stuff to do with the ICC.
Can you imagine the moral outrage, the gall it takes to say we would be parties to ethnic cleansing if we if we cooperated anyway with allowing Palestinians into our countries? Wait a minute here. That again is blackmail on Israel. Egypt and Jordan are insisting that Hamas survive to continue attacks on Israel, that we go back to status quo ante, or we would be parties to some kind of ethnic cleansing. No, Egypt, if you lived up to any of the humanitarian crap that you're demanding on Israel and demanding on the West, then you would have the same duty to take these people in. You would have the same moral responsibility. But no, it's just Israel that has this moral responsibility to feed and care for their enemies. But we won't lift a finger to help these Palestinians ourselves, despite this altruism that demands that Israel do this. Otherwise, we'd be party to ethnic cleansing, the very ethnic cleansing that Hamas wants to do against Jews. It's absolutely it's Alice in Wonderland. It is upside down, morally perverse, morally inverted logic. So, no, it's blackmail that Egypt and Jordan are engaged in, just as it's blackmail that Hamas is demanding on Israel. It's not any kind of blackmail holding up humanitarian aid on Israel's part. No. These people have not yet surrendered after more than a year and a half of fighting. Israel has every right to relentlessly reduce Gaza to nothing and remove whoever's left to someplace else. And if they don't leave, well, they're the ones now stuck in the starvation situation they created for themselves. Because after all, this is their whole plan, to inflict as much suffering on their women and children as possible and blame it on Israel. That is their strategy. And The Guardian, leftists in the West, Egypt and Jordan, and guess what? To Israel, look at it's time. I don't like to criticize Israel, but look in a mirror. You are submitting to this moral inversion. You are you are accepting their evil premises that you have a duty to keep these people alive and in place so they can continue to attack you. That would be a dereliction of their moral responsibility as a government to their own people. They have a moral responsibility to cut off any aid, even if they shouldn't even be the ones managing how the aid is delivered. There should be no aid. They should level the place. The people should be begging to get out of there, or unconditionally
Yeah.
surrender and make peace, or get the hell out, or you will die.
Yeah,
Full stop.
it is interesting to see that these two paragraphs that are specifically about Smotrich that gave this article its headline. Um, yeah, they kind of go out of their way to present what he said in a certain way, but like the quote itself that they're putting here talks about moving civilians to humanitarian zones without Hamas and terrorism, which again I oppose unless these territories are far, far from Israel. But that is what he's saying. He is saying we will continue to pretend that Hamas is the enemy and the Palestinian people are our friends. So we will move our friends out of harm's way and fight our enemies, and then be surprised every time we find out that the people we thought are our friends are actually our enemies. So this is why I don't like Smotrich. I mean, he is rhetorically better than most people in the government in Israel when it comes to talking about Gaza. But he is in the government in Israel right now. He's part of the problem, and even the solutions he offered that sound better than the others, when you delve into them, you see he's still talking about protecting the people who started this war from the people who were attacked to start this war.
They have accepted the moral premise that they have a duty to protect and support the people who have been relentlessly attacking them, the people that committed the atrocities of October 7th, the people who are still holding hostages. And he, like everyone else, every other government in the world, has accepted the moral premise to various degrees that Israel has some duty to protect, preserve, protect, defend, feed, house, clothe. What else? Are we supposed to give them, Sunday brunch? I mean, they have. It is absolutely insane. Israel has no. In fact, their obligation is to protect their own people. They don't have any responsibility to these civilians, these quote civilians. I mean, the Palestinians have been worse than aiders and abettors of all of this. They've been active participants. It was civilians who came over the fence on October 7th. It's civilians who hide these hostages. It's civilians who, even the civilians who are objecting to Hamas rule right now. Okay, you guys may have gone a little too far. Have they openly said we must destroy Hamas and live at peace with Israel? No, they have not. And that is obviously a precondition for even thinking about allowing any Palestinians there. But we've long passed that. It's been years we've passed that. It's been months we've passed that. At this point, the only correct thing is no humanitarian aid allowed in by anybody. Reduce the place to rubble, keep killing until the enemy population relents and flees the area in large numbers. I mean, if you ask me, the only moral truth there that we can sort of pull out is the twisted version of what the Guardian gives to what the Israeli minister has said. No, it should be scorched earth. The place should be leveled. Large numbers should be removed from Gaza. That is the only way Israel can have security, and that's Israel's responsibility as a government to its own people. The
um,
idea that anyone owes them anything, food, protection, is morally perverse. It's like saying you have a duty to feed Hitler while he's engaged in the Holocaust. Insanity.
So we're out of time, but I do want to go to one paragraph here, which is kind of not about the main topic, but it's in this article, and it again tells you how these people report the news. So this is a paragraph that says, late on Tuesday, at least 29 people were killed in an Israeli strike on a school sheltering displaced people, medics said. That's the paragraph. There's nothing about it before it. The next thing is dozens more were wounded in the attack on some camp. So that one sentence, late on Tuesday, at least 29 people were killed. This is not reporting. So killed in an Israeli strike on a school sheltering displaced people. No, on a building that used to be a school and certainly hasn't been for at least a year and a half, which officially is supposedly for the sheltering of civilians. But we know this, and we know from the way the IDF has been operating and the results in Gaza, the terrorists were targeted. So at least mention the terrorists were targeted. And you can mention, I know journalists don't like saying I don't know about things, but you don't know who the potential target was, what they were doing. You know that the school is not a school, but you lie about it. You know that displaced people sheltering is usually where Hamas always hides. And by the way, at least 29 people were killed. First of all, that you do not know. You say medics said at the end. That's not medics said. That's Hamas said. Hamas are your journalists in Gaza. They told you it's 29. So you could, if you insist on putting that number, say Hamas said 29 people, at least 29 people were killed in an attack by Israel on Hamas operatives. That's what it was. But everything about that is anti-journalism and hardcore propaganda. That's all.
Hardcore Hamas propaganda given to the English-speaking media by The Guardian. Thank you, Guardian, for lying on behalf of Hamas, twisting the facts on behalf of Hamas. You know perfectly well that there's, even before all of this began, they were using schools, they were using hospitals, they were using UNRWA facilities. You know damn well their strategy. And in fact, The Guardian knows damn well their strategy. But I mean, look, we're objectivists. We do not believe that people owe anybody, when I'm born, the fact that I'm born doesn't mean you, Razi, owe me a living, owe me a darn thing. But to say that about your attackers, to say Israel owes support, protection, defense, feeding of their enemies, that is the complete moral inversion. But it's only made possible by this first, you see. No one owes a Gazan a goddamn thing. They haven't owed them anything at all. And if you don't allow other people to feed them, like the parasites that they are, for the sole purpose of killing Jews, then somehow you're a genocidal monster. But not Hamas. We are living through the looking glass, as I say. This is some kind of logical paradox exercise. It would be a joke if it weren't the serious moral logic used by the Israeli government and Western governments.
Well, yeah, we're going to keep calling the Israeli government and Western governments out on what they do. And of course, we're going to keep reading The Guardian so you don't have to. And yeah, thank you to The Guardian for being so evil that you provide us so much material that if we decided to change the content strategy on ARCUK and just do 7 days of the Daily Objective, 7 episodes of the Daily Objective a week, and 5 episodes of the reality show a week, just going through Guardian articles, we would still struggle to pick the ones and decide which ones to leave out. So yeah, with that, James, thank you for joining me. Thanks everybody for watching. Thanks to the Iranian proxies in Yemen. I'm stuck in Israel for a bit longer, but you will hopefully see me
And
from
no
here.
thanks to Mr. Trump. Jesus. In any
Yeah.
case, be safe, people.
Yeah. Thanks, James. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you back here tomorrow.